everybody. I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice. Welcome to Crime of the Arts.
A true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heists, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
Oh, yeah. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm hanging in there. How's it going with you?
Pretty good. I'm being rude and eating on camera. Okay, hold on, please. We're going to start off the show by plugging the Patreon. We are using a new format. We're recording in Riverside FM. So you're going to see some cool new video content in the way that it all sits up. And even the audio sounds better to me. So you guys let us know what you think. So you can head on over to patreon.com/Crime of the Arts podcast. And you have two tiers that you can choose from. You have the peek behind the curtain tier, which is our first level. It's $5 a month. And that will get you... You guys couldn't see it, but Justin was peeking behind the curtain in a pantomime, and it was hilarious.
That was, yeah.
Okay, so with that level, you are going to get recordings of us in the studio just like this. You usually get more content because we don't edit these videos, so you get all the weird stuff that we might edit out of the audio on your regular platforms. And you get a card and you get some stickers sent to you from us with love. And you can also shoot up to the Don't Do Crime folks level. That is there's a Cheez-It on my mic, sorry. That is the $10 level. And that level will get you some little extra fun stuff. Like we're going to do hats and t-shirt giveaways, but you get everything that we just mentioned. And, we want to give you more. So let us know what you want.
Exactly. Definitely reach out to us and let us know what you guys are into. And we'll be more than happy to try to work towards that. Because that's the thing. The Patreon, we want it to be a welcoming, inviting experience for you guys. And Well,
and the Patreon is special just for you. So like we're willing to do the extra stuff. We just want to know what you want. We are going to bring you some episodes here and there with a guest, and the guest is going to come on and tell a story. And Justin and I are going to, just listen and react to that guest. And our guests are pretty freaking funny. So hopefully we'll drop one of those sneak peeks, a full episode on the regular feed. But then you can head on over and you can get ad-free content and you can hear these special episodes on the Patreon. So again, patreon.com/Crime of the Arts podcast.
We'll see you there.
See you there. This week, I am going to tell you the story of Napster.
Oh, an oldie but a goodie. Oh, my goodness.
Flashing back to 14-year-old Lisa.
I'm having flashbacks now. Me on the dial-up trying to spend 8 hours to download one song only to get like a remixed version I didn't know existed because it gave me the wrong one.
But the weird reggaeton version that you're like, what even happened? It probably wasn't even reggae back then. It was probably like some like weird techno trap version that you're like, I didn't want this.
I was just like, this, whatever. I have to listen to it now. Just gonna, whatever, put it in my Discman. Yeah, I'm committed. So I can't wait to hear your Napster story. And today I'm actually covering, I guess, what's the male equivalent to like American Sweetheart? You know how like for film women, it's like, oh, American Sweetheart, Girl Next Door. What would this person be? Ferris Bueller, Matthew Broderick. I'm covering him.
He's like the all-American guy.
Yeah, is he all-American?
Not
or is he
all-American
just like
in like a sports way, but he's like the quintessential all-American teenager, I feel like.
Okay, that's fair. All right. So I'll be
he's
covering...
not like an all-American all-star.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. But I'll be covering the all-American guy next door, Matthew Broderick. And we got an interesting story with him that'll come up.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people that don't, like, if you're not into this kind of a thing, maybe you don't know that story. So that'll be a fun one. I don't know all that. I just, again, you pick these stories out that I like know in obscurity. They're like, I know like that they exist in the world, but I don't know what actually happened.
Right.
No deets in my brain. Okay, so obviously you remember Napster.
Oh, yeah.
Napster was the greatest thing when we were teenagers. Okay, so Justin and I are a strange breed of human where we had 11 channels on a television that had no remote. And then we also have 70-inch TVs that we stream everything, and we've lived everything in between of technology, right? So we went from like straight up Nintendo to like N64 to Xbox. We've experienced the gambit. It didn't exist when we were kids, and we watched it take over society. So we're a special breed. Like my little brother doesn't know what it's like to record off the boombox off the radio on a cassette tape. Like he never did that, right?
Yes, I remember that. My God. He
lived in the days of LimeWire and Napster, and that's all he ever knew was CDs. Okay, so before Napster, you either had to like wait for your favorite album to come out and go to like The Wall or something, Virgin Records to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. For your entertainment. Yeah, we had The Wall where I grew up, and you had to get like the cassette tape or like the single and wait for the whole album to come out. Or if you were me and you were Poe, you just sat with your giant boombox and your cassette player and you sat all day and listened to the radio to wait for that one song to play. And I'll tell you something, I got real good at hitting that record button.
I was a pro. Yeah. I was a pro. In junior high, my mom got me that infamous, everyone at least had one in their household.
Box speakers.
It was like, it was the Sony 3D disc changer with the cassettes built in so you could record. And I would just let the radio play and keep adjusting the antenna so it was like perfect quality. And then bam, hit record on that.
Yeah, I was prepping to be a stage manager like my whole life because I'd be sitting there like waiting to cue it. Okay, go. And I remember NSYNC, since we're in like, we keep this like theme of the week. NSYNC's No Strings Attached album was coming out and they previewed it on the radio and they only played like one song an hour or something fucking ridiculous. I sat there the entire day and recorded the whole album on a cassette tape.
Damn.
1 hour at a time. I was so committed. I don't know if I've ever been committed to anything the way I was committed to that. Honestly, marriage, children.
It was do or die. Like, it's
seriously.
Just, you had to hit it at the right moment or it was over.
Oh, or you would just ruin everything.
Yeah,
like,
you can't
everything. Even go pee because you just spent 12 hours. What, in the 10th hour, you're going to go pee and then it's all gone for nothing?
I've accidentally over-recorded or it overlapped into something else I had already recorded. And then, God forbid, if you have to flip it to side B, it was like...
oh my God, not having enough room halfway through a song and flipping it over to side B, and then it's just everything's shot. Oh my God, how did we live, Justin? How did we live? Okay, so for all you youngins who aren't sure what Napster actually is, it was started in 1999, pre the millennium, by two 18-year-old kids named Sean Fanning and Sean Parker. And the name Sean Parker probably rings a bell because if you know anything about the Facebook movies, he was kind of a little involved and Justin Timberlake played him in the Facebook movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, although there were already networks that facilitated the distribution of files across the interwebs, there were things like Usenet and Hotline. Napster specialized specifically in MP3 files, and their interface was so user-friendly that 14-year-olds like us had no problem navigating this program. At its peak, Napster's service had about 80 million registered users. That's so many people. So they made it relatively easy for music enthusiasts to download copies of songs that were otherwise difficult to obtain, such as an unreleased single or a bootleg concert version, which how did people even do that? With hand recorders? How did they do that back then? I don't know. So yeah, like I remember getting like an NSYNC song that they only released in like the UK or something like that. Because I swear to God, I listened to more than NSYNC when I was 14, but this is where I'm running. So in essence, Napster, though, really paved the way for the streaming services and transformed the way music was became like a public good for a brief amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It was the dawn of the way that we essentially do everything now. We consume everything.
This is correct.
From our homes that we download music, TV, film. It doesn't matter what it is. We need it in this like instant sort of way from the comfort of our homes. And the thing that was nice about Napster is it was free. So yeah, everyone used it. And it's funny because in the articles I was reading, they were talking about colleges, like their networks. So think about high-speed networks in 1999, first of all, which is like ridiculous to even put in a sentence.
It's like 1 megabit per second, but that's still significantly faster to dial up. Yeah.
So colleges were actually banning the use of Napster because they were getting all of their systems overloaded. Like 60% of their external network traffic consisted of MP3 files. So like, what else did you do in college? I mean, I think about myself, even when we were in college, not in 1999, a decade after that. And it was music and theater, like everything you did was in that vein. So colleges blocked the use of it. And that was even before they were concerned about like the liability for facilitating copyright violations on campus. They
didn't even care about that. They're like, it's just holding up our network, our traffic. We can't do this.
Yep. So here's the specifics. Napster provided a platform for users to download compressed digital files, specifically MP3s, from other users' music libraries. So unlike many of the peer-to-peer services, Napster's service make use of MP3s by providing software which enables internet users to see the MP3 files on other Napster users' stored computer data. Does that make sense to you? I know what I'm trying to say, but did that make sense?
So essentially the catch to Napster, because it's like it's a peer network. It's like once you're accessing whatever that file is that everyone else is uploading, you now have access to potentially what's on the other side of their computer. Yeah.
Right. So you could just go in and be like, I want to hear Michael Jackson. You could just go type Michael Jackson in, and now you're getting a slew of all the Michael Jackson songs that are on any computer in 80 million users.
Yeah. It's like it's peer to peer. Yeah. Networking.
I mean, it's so far ahead of its time. It's amazing. It really is. When you think about it, back in that technological level we were at, it's really incredible. Like I said, using the software, users can search and download songs from other people's computers. That's the gist of it. And that's really sketchy to me. Like, to think about doing that in this day and age, that you're just allowing people into your computer freely to download these files, is fucking terrifying
and kind of malicious, because you don't know if someone could put something in your computer,
right?
Which there might be other topics we'll cover later in Crime of the Arts in regards to that, but
you can download a corrupt file thinking it's whatever hit song you're trying to get, and really it's just people fishing for your information. I can't, oh my god, it gives me so much anxiety. And I do remember you could do that search, right? It was almost like Google searching, but you would Napster search. Right. And then you would get 1,000 versions of whatever song you looked for. Every person formatted it their own way. So you would read the file the same way they had it stored on their computer. So yeah, it was just always annoyed the shit out of my OCD brain. Like, why are all of these things different? So you could download anyone's file, and it would take 3 fucking hours. And you'd be so excited.
The good times.
Yeah, you'd be sitting there like waiting for the last like 5% to tick off, and then you get it and you hit the button and it's not at all the fucking song that you wanted. And you're like, oh, this is the worst experience ever. It was a roller coaster of emotions. You like found it. You're like, yes, this one's going to download. And then you sit and you wait and you keep checking and checking and checking. You come back, here it is. Womp. Or it was amazing and it was the song you wanted. So obviously, the record industry immediately took action against what it believed to be unauthorized copying of copyrighted musical works that Napster was allowing us to share. The first lawsuit was filed at a U.S. District Court of Northern California, and the record companies alleged both contributory and vicarious copyright infringement by Napster. So I'll get into what the difference is. And they filed a motion for a preliminary injunction in order to stop the exchange of their plaintiffs' songs on the service immediately. So I'm not a lawyer, and neither are you, Justin. So I went and looked up the difference between these two fucking terms. Do you know the difference between these
No, I do not. Okay. So please enlighten me.
So contributory infringement is a way of imposing a secondary liability. And it's based on a connection to the infringement activity. So a party can be found liable for contributory infringement when the party knows of the infringing activity and induces, causes, or contributes to it. So that's why a person who has the song on their computer and adds it in would be liable for contributory infringement.
Yeah, because they knew.
Yep, you know that's not yours to share. So unlike contributory infringement, vicarious infringement liability will depend on the relationship between the party and the direct infringer, as opposed to the party's relationship to the infringement. So that would be Napster versus whoever's music they're watching being traded. So to be found vicariously liable, the party must have both the right and the ability to supervise or control the infringement action. And they have to be able to technically reap financial benefits directly from that activity. Clear as mud, right?
Yeah.
Crystal clear. Okay. I read those two things and I was like, I don't know what the hell any of this means. Okay, I think we get it though. Vicarious is more on Napster and contributory is more on the user. However, Napster is being charged with both. And I guess we'll get into a little bit more of why. So it all started when Metallica, when I was reading the article, I was cracking up because they were like, heavy metal band, Metallica. I was like, I don't need to put that predisposition of information in here.
It always comes back down to Metallica, though. Like, I'll let you finish that, but I'm going to say something else about it later.
So they discovered that a demo of their song called I Disappear had been circulating across the network before it was even released. So someone on the inside dropped that shit. And this led to it being played on several radio stations across the U.S., which alerted Metallica to the fact that their entire back catalog of studio material was also available on Napster. Is what you're saying a part of this, or is it something else separate?
Yeah, no, it's part of that. And also later on, just Metallica is very strict since this incident about their music being used, period.
They felt very burned, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And I guess I get it. Like, Metallica is one of those bands that has also gone through the internet age with their stardom. So they've been feeling like they're fighting this battle probably the whole time. And I also laughed because they told rapper and producer Dr. Dre. So March 13th, 2000, Metallica filed a lawsuit against Napster. A month later, Dr. Dre, who was the same litigator in the same law firm with Metallica, filed a lawsuit against Napster because they refused his written request to remove his works from the service. Could you imagine being these two fucking kids getting a letter from Dr. Dre and his lawyer saying, take my shit off there? And they were like, nah, we're not doing that. The audacity of these children.
Yeah, they don't know who they're fucking with. I'll tell you that much. But no, when you mentioned Metallica, it made me think of again, Stranger Things, Master of Puppets. Yeah, we've all seen this season of Stranger Things with Eddie and how he played it.
The most epic scene.
Yeah, most epic scene. But, you know, people kept trying to recreate that scene via TikTok and things like that. And I last time I checked, Metallica wasn't having that because, again, that's them using the music without the permission and seeing how they're traumatized from Napster. I get it now. Like, I
don't get it. Why don't you stop it? Relax. People can use your music on TikTok. Just chill, dude. They're not gaining anything. Oh my God. So let's see where I was at. Separately, Metallica and Dr. Dre later delivered to Napster thousands of usernames of people who they believed were pirating their own songs. So they had their lawyers go out and find all this information. I had no idea. So March 2001, Napster settles both those lawsuits after being shut down by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in a separate lawsuit from several major record labels.
Damn.
Yeah. They pummeled these kids. In 2000, Madonna's single Music was leaked out on the web and Napster prior to its commercial release, causing widespread media coverage. And in 2000, the American record company A&M Records, along with several other companies through the Record Industry Association of America, or RIAA, sued Napster on the grounds of copyright infringement.
Mm-hmm.
And they cited it under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. If you feel like being lawyery today. DMCA, yep. So Napster faced with the allegations from the music industry that its users were directly violating their plaintiffs' copyrights and that Napster was responsible for contributory and vicarious infringement of those copyrights. So a judge named Marilyn Hall Patel of the United States District Court of Northern District of California, why do they make all these things so complicated? Issued an injunction which preliminarily prohibited Napster from, and I quote, engaging in or facilitating others in copying, downloading, uploading, transmitting, or distributing plaintiffs' copyrighted musical compositions, sound recordings, and protected by either federal or state law without express permission of the rights owner. So essentially they were like, stop everything you're doing. Everything that this program exists for, you're canned. Now, the thing is, the one factor in all of this is they never got any money for doing this. Like, they didn't charge people. They created this platform. Do you know, did they have advertisements or anything that they were gaining?
This is what I was going to say. I was like, don't do crime, folks. But again, you first made this as like a free to play thing. Later on, after your court case, I guess, or after what you just said, I'm pretty sure they tried to go legit and they were trying to sell like music. Because I remember there used to be like gift cards in stores, like $20 Napster gift cards, things like that.
I'll get there. there.
Okay. All right. You're right, though. Before then, it was free. I'm just saying, like, don't do crime, folks. But if you're going to create a peer-to-peer free to share server, Napster was very public about it. And I do remember, I feel like I saw commercials and shit about Napster before like all of this the legalities went down with it. It's like they just didn't care. Like, they were publicly, the whole world knew about Napster.
They sure fucking did.
I'm sure there was other competitors at the time that, not giving them credit, but they may have been doing things on a quieter level, more exclusive level,
right? More ear to ear rather than than putting out commercials on national television.
Yeah.
So Napster appealed the ruling to the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Ninth Circuit, and the circuit court dedicated much more of its opinion to Napster's attempted application of the fair use defense. Now, do you know what the fair use law is?
No.
As long as you're not, you know what, I should probably find you like a real, okay, so really this is what it is. So as long as you're not changing or transforming the thing that you're using. So like, that's how podcasts, you hear other podcasts put in sound clips from like if they're doing a like a recap. That's because they're covered under the Fair Use Act, that they're not changing that. They're just utilizing it to continue to tell their story.
Right.
And they're giving the credit due back to that. So the Fair Use Act is what they're claiming is happening with people trading all of this stuff. It's available and they should be covered under this act. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel like for Napster's usage, you can't really get away with that. Like, you can try to put that as a strong defense, but the fact still remains, like, I would accept that if you were, actually, I wouldn't accept it, but it's more believable if you were just releasing music that already existed, that has all, or even if you use the defense of, well, we actually own this music, we're just sharing it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I purchased the album and I uploaded it. I could slightly believe that. But what you're fucking saying now is like, oh, well, we didn't transform it, which is also kind of a fucking lie, too, because there's been plenty of things that I downloaded that is now just random remixes and remastered, or not I downloaded per se, but who knows? Someone my age once upon a time might have. But yes. Right.
This is not self-incriminating.
Yeah.
The Fair Use Act, see, I don't know how they can claim. So I feel like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, where they're like, we don't actually put the music up ourselves. We're just a platform, right? And then the other side of it is, well, it's covered under fair use. Well, are you putting it up or are you not putting it up? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to take claim for it and facilitating it, or are you not? Because
they're technically not putting it up, but they designed the infrastructure to where you can access it from any, you know what I mean? So you're still responsible. You're still touching that to an extent.
Well, that's the things. I feel like the laws have changed now. Things like YouTube, where they're responsible to a degree.
Yeah.
Right. And then past that, it becomes what the user put up and it's their liability. So I don't know. This whole scenario changed the face of sharing data. Yep. So in the end, the circuit court agreed with the district court that the general analysis of Napster's system uses, as well as its analysis of the 3 uses alleged by Napster. Some of the factors required to use the fair use defense is that downloading MP3s is not transformative, and though Napster didn't directly benefit financially from its users' downloads, as it did not charge for the service, it repeated and exploitative copying of copyrighted works, even if the copies were not offered for sale. So it could be considered a commercial use that requires authorization from copyright holders, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the court rejected Napster's argument that file sharing by its users qualified for the fair use. Some artists had given their consent for Napster to do it. So that's the other side of it, is like you had some people who were like, this is fine. Knock yourself out. Like, I don't care. On its face, Napster is really great in a vein of pre-SoundCloud, where small-time, unsigned artists can share their music and things like that, where they're putting it up themselves. But when you're using Dre and Metallica, like, you know, it has to be in a more controlled environment. Like I said, Napster lost the appeal, and once that appeal was lost, the district court, who originally denied their claim, commanded Napster to keep track of the activities of its network or to restrict the access of infringing material. So in February of 2001, we're talking just a few months before all of this kind of went to shit, Napster had 26.4 million verified users. So they had no idea how to control this. They built this program and they had no clue of how to cage it down. You know, these are two 18-year-olds. They're not mass internet scientists. So they weren't able to comply and thus had to shut everything down July 2001. And then like that, it was gone. Gone. And I remember it being gone and being so lost without Napster. And there were other programs out that were trying to like come up and take that spot, but man, they didn't fill the void for me. Do you remember feeling like bereft of Napster?
I mean, Napster did it better than some others, but I was grateful that there was still some others that might have existed, you know.
What was out then? Come on, we could talk about it. LimeWire. LimeWire stuck around for a long, long time.
LimeWire was around for a long time.
I don't know how they pulled that off.
Again, they didn't have verified users. I mean, don't do crime, folks, but like Napster's out here.
Stupid.
Yeah. Napster's over here, verified users, all this other shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a few that was around.
Yeah, I felt like LimeWire always had garbage.
There still might be some around now. Who knows? Yeah.
I mean, we know that there's some now.
Yeah.
So in 2002, Napster announced that it had filed for bankruptcy and sold its assets to a third-party company, which is what you saw in the stores. So the owners of the service settled with songwriters and music publishers and agreed to pay $26 million.
Oof.
Fucking bonkers. $26 million from two 18-year-olds who made no money making this. I don't understand how they did this. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2018, Rolling Stone did an interview with Kirk Hammett of Metallica, and he upheld the band's opinion that suing Napster was the right thing to do. And I agree, honestly. We had no right in our time to be taking all of that information without paying for it. You know, but the thing is they're so far ahead of their time that everyone was willing to pay for it. We all pay for it now.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a shame.
You pay for it now via Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music. Audible,
Amazon. And like for us, for example, we put all of our information on these websites, right? Our podcasts are available on all these platforms that people use. And it's a shame because they built this entire it's like a machine, like a brain, and then companies like Apple get to just fucking take it and use it and then charge people for it. It's nuts to me.
They get to pluck it. They get to pluck it out and just But that's the thing, you know, again, like you said, we were this unique generation that was like growing up into technology as technology was developing. So in hindsight, I mean, in that moment when Napster and all these things were existing, because it was such new territory, you didn't necessarily see it as wrong because there's no guidelines to it. But once something like that trends to whatever level and the government and other things can see that as potentially viable, I mean, they're going to they're going to make the necessary changes.
Well, listen, right? So we're a creative arts podcast, and that's why this story even lands here, right? So you can't take a painting and recreate it like we've seen in other stories and call it this other thing that you recreated it from without it being illegal. So those exact same concepts should live in something that's not tangibly touchable. And that's why the internet is fucking weird. You know, it's like you can't hold this good, but it is a real thing that exists. It's trippy because when it was just records or when it was cassettes or CDs, that made sense. Right?
Yeah.
You're right. There was no moral compass on how you should be acting. There's a group consisting of 18 copyright law professors at multiple U.S. universities that went out together and put out a briefing on the outcome of this lawsuit. And they argued that the district court misread prior proceedings with Sony and took too narrow of a view on the Fair Use Act. So I thought this was pretty interesting. The professors argued that the too widely applied nature of the injunction threatened the creation and the use of this peer-to-peer file sharing network because it insisted on a restructuring that defeated the peer-to-peer network technology itself. So there was nothing they could do because it would make it be something else completely.
Exactly.
And they also argued that the finding of contributory liability was erroneous because not all of the uses in the system were copyright infringement. If Joe Schmo wanted to put his music on there, he could. And that was his choice. And it was not a copyright infringement. So how can you say that everything they're doing is under contributory liability as well? So they concluded, and I quote, if plaintiffs want copyright law extended to allow the suppression of new technologies, they must make their case to Congress. You can't just turn around and slap an answer on what this is. This needed to be further adjudicated.
Right.
Because you're making a new law. You know what I mean? So this case really represents a landmark in the uncharted waters of internet copyright law. Policymakers, lawyers, consumers, entrepreneurs all watched very closely to see what would happen because really this dictated where any entrepreneur could take anything. And legal experts have also said that the implications for the case extend beyond music to the sharing of all media, film, TV, books. I mean, you can pirate anything. Games. And it set the tone for how intellectual property law is defined on the internet. There's a number of file sharing networks that surfaced in the wake of Napster's death, like Morpheus, Grokster? I don't remember.
I don't know that one.
And many of which interface their own legal also face their own legal challenges over the infringement behavior of their users. And they all sucked. All those programs sucked. I remember, like I said, being lost without Napster. So in 2005, MGM Studios sued Grokster, Grokster. You probably remember. You don't remember that program?
I didn't use it. Grokster.
It went to the Supreme Court, and it's considered by many to be the sequel to the Napster case, addressing another technology that outpaced the law. And over the next few years, BitTorrent and other peer-to-peer technology became the target of copyright scrutiny as well. So popular torrent trackers like Pirate Bay face long legal battles, but their opponents have had little success in shutting down these services permanently. I had a roommate that once upon a time.
No names, yes.
And this roommate enjoyed downloading things off of things like Pirate Bay. And said roommate downloaded a game, some Lego game or something Star Wars Lego themed. And the house was I got the house for all of us. And then the internet and everything was in my name. So I'm getting cease and desist letters.
You got that DMCA letter. Yep. Yes, you fucking did.
Saying you are pirating, copyright infringement,
yes,
blah,
you
blah,
did.
blah, blah, blah. Yo, my head could have blown off. But not only did I get one, I got 2 of those letters.
You lucky you didn't get 3. That would have been the end of your service.
So that's what they said in the letter. The reason I didn't get 3 is because I walked in her fucking room and I said, excuse you, they don't give a shit that it's on your IP address because it doesn't matter. This is all under my name and you're not allowed to have a computer here anymore.
Too funny.
She didn't even say I'm moving out. She just moved out and didn't tell anyone. That's really what happened.
Yeah, she could have,
there's about 100 ways that could have been handled better. But,
Yeah, it could have. But still, she could have at least. It's such an extreme to be like, I'm moving out. You could have just, she could have hit her IP or just not did it at all. I don't know. Once upon a time, folks, I used to work for a cable company / internet company. And, all those phone calls I would get about my internet's not working, a good portion of them, well, you received your third DMCA letter there.
Really?
And they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. What does that mean? I'm like, downloading things. I've never downloaded a thing in my life. Well, someone in your house downloaded the following list. And it's like,
they sent me a list of what she downloaded.
Yeah,
that's trippy, dude. Yeah. It was the same company that I almost lost it, the one that you worked for. So, so we weren't roommates after that. And we also weren't really even friends after that. So these file sharing networks paved the way for the streaming media platforms that we now use and dominate the entire world. I never thought we'd see the day when like movie theaters could be in danger, like the concept of a movie theater, but they must be taking a serious hit, especially after COVID, when movies were being released earlier on streaming platforms or only on streaming platforms. The record industry declared the decision against Napster a major and complete victory. And really it was. They got a law put in effect under the table somehow that protected all this stuff. And the RIAA said, this sends the message to others who are building businesses based on other people's copyrighted works without permission. Representatives of Metallica and Dre, who are taking separate action against Napster, called the decision a huge win. And although Metallica have consistently attacked Napster for stealing people's music, Napster was actually championed by other artists such as Courtney Love and Public Enemy. Now, Courtney Love's a little out of her mind, but I can appreciate the idea. Honestly, like, it's cool that she wanted to do that. Eventually, it was going to transform into what it is today. There was just not enough foresight,
Yeah.
Because these things still technically exist, but we all still pay for Apple Music and Spotify for the convenience.
The convenience.
Along with the accusations that Napster was hurting the sales of the record industry, some felt just the opposite, and that the file trading on Napster stimulated rather than hurt sales. Some evidence came to light in July of 2000 when tracks from Radiohead's album Kid A found their way to Napster 3 months before the album's release. And unlike Madonna and Dr. Dre or Metallica, Radiohead had never hit a top 20 in the US. Furthermore, Kid A was an album without any singles released, and it received relatively very little radio play. So, by the time the album actually came out, it was estimated to have been downloaded for free by millions of people worldwide. And in October of 2000, Kid A captured #1 spot on the Billboard 200 sales in its debut week. And that has everything to do with the fact that people were able to access it. Mm-hmm. So, according to Richard Menta of the MP3 Newswire, the effect of Napster in this instance was isolated from other elements, but it could be credited for driving up the sales, and the album's unexpected success suggests that Napster was a good promotional tool for music. I also agree with that. We have avenues where we can put our podcast out for people to help support us financially, like Patreon. But we do all of this work and it's free, and we want people to come enjoy it with us. So I understand the feeling that you can use it in that way.
Right.
Since 2000, many artists, particularly those not signed to major labels and without access to traditional mass media outlets such as radio or TV, have said that Napster and successive internet file sharing networks have helped their music be heard, spread the word of mouth, and may have improved their sales in the long term. Like I said, I think they were just ahead of their times. And unfortunately, all of these companies reaped the fucking benefits of the changed Napster force in our society. We couldn't go back after that. That was it. They pushed us off an edge. Yeah. I mean,
a digital revolution was yeah.
It's exactly what it was. You nailed it. A digital revolution. Yeah. So that is the story of Napster.
It was a hell of a story. And again, just having flashbacks of all the times I may or may not have used it.
Just another 80 million users. I think we were on there. Yeah. You don't have to say that we actually did anything, but we've seen it.
Yeah, we've seen it. We saw a lot of it.
I'm Raven Rollins, and this is my Southern True Crime podcast where I discuss cases from my former hometown. Ada, Oklahoma paints itself as an average community, but its history of murder and corruption runs deeper than any story has ever told. You'll hear plenty of special guests, including authors and experts in their fields, who visit with me on each episode, as well as other cases in the southern states. With notorious and unknown cases alike, every victim sees the light on my show. This is Sirens, a true crime podcast.
Okay, tell me about Matthew Broderick.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to get into the nitty gritty with Matthew Broderick. For those of you that are younger, I mean, just saying his name, I don't blame you if you don't know him, because it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, like I mentioned,
he did Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
But someone that's like 19 or 20 right now, they're not going to know Ferris Bueller. But yes, they will know producers.
Let me tell you this. Hold on a second. Looking at our analytics, the 20-year-olds don't give a crap about us.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then screw them. But yes, you were right. This man was Bueller. He was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He starred on the Broadway Producers, which then became the movie adaptation, which he restarred in. Let's not forget, he was motherfucking Simba and adult Simba in Lion King. Like,
he's been in a ton of things. I mean, he's again, he's like of the 90s and 2000s. He's like, you know, royalty, like Hollywood royalty. Matthew Broderick.
Exactly. Wait, he was Simba, right? Am I making that up, or was he?
No, I think he was.
Okay,
no, I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I'm pretty sure I saw that. But yeah, that's the thing. He was like the 80s and 90s for sure. He's been in so many things, acting wise, film, TV, theater, even voice acting. It's just, he has a long career in acting, and he's been well recognized. He has even been inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame and the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Okay.
Oh yeah. And isn't he married to?
I was gonna say, yeah, he's married to Sarah Jessica Parker. Those of you know her from Hocus Pocus, or you know this little show called Sex in the City.
Sex in the City. Duh.
So yeah, we're just gonna get into it. I'm going to go backwards a little bit for his past first, but Matthew Broderick was born in Manhattan in New York. He's a New Yorker through and through on March 21st, 1962. Both of his parents were involved in the performing arts, as his mother, Patricia, was a playwright and an actress. And his father, James, was a World War II veteran turned actor. How fucking cool is that? That just...
That is so cool. And I love that we tell these stories, and I feel like a lot of the time, I mean, you hear these people who have come up, like where we give their background, and both of their parents are like so deep in the arts. It's such a cool thing to see how that like transcends generations.
Yeah, it just flourishes throughout the generations. So, but yeah, he spent his entire childhood in Manhattan, where he attended. And it's weird for me to say he spent his time in Manhattan because we're New Yorkers, the city. He just spent his entire, but I say Manhattan geographically for those listening.
Yeah. I mean, they don't care that it's the city. I'm in Nashville and I call it the city and I get yelled at. So like,
he spent his entire childhood out there in Manhattan, where he attended school up until he graduated high school. So he also began to receive. It was HB Studio in Greenwich Village.
Okay.
Yeah. It was during his time at HB Studios that he landed his first acting role in a production of Horton Foots on Valentine's Day, where he played opposite his own father, who just so happened to be a friend of the playwright. So that's pretty wild. Like, you're sharing the stage with your father as your like first official like professional credit.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He followed that up with a supporting role in an off-Broadway production of Torch Song Trilogy by Harvey Fierstein, where he was able to gain the attention of Broadway after a great review by Mel Gusso, who was a theater critic for New York Times. So that's what helped propel him. This allowed him to land his first theatrical role when he played Eugene Jerome in Neil Simon's Eugene Trilogy. So for those of you who don't follow theater, Neil Simon is regarded as one of the best American playwrights of all time. Tons of fucking plays.
Barefoot in the Park is my favorite show ever. Seriously, it really is. I love that show.
But yeah, he got his start within that. And we're discussing this now. Like, this was like the birth of that particular play because Neil Simon had been around for a very long time. That was his first Broadway debut. It was March of 1983.
And how old was he?
He was a young adult.
60? No, yeah. So he's like early 20s.
Early 20s. His first performance allowed him to win the Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Play, which made him the youngest actor to win the award to date. He's still the youngest to win that.
Wow.
So after that successful like time on Broadway, Broderick made his movie debut in 1983 when he landed a supporting role in Max Dugan Returns, which was also written by Neil Simon. So Neil Simon he's got
his hands in a lot of things.
Yeah, he built such a nice rapport with Neil Simon, and it really helped him out. So
and you see that a lot, especially in theater.
Yep.
You get your core people, and you just keep dragging them along with you.
You keep using them. That's that's the way it works.
Look at Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Well,
right?
yeah,
you got Christopher Jackson in
the
Moana,
Heights and Hamilton and Moana. Yeah.
Like you got In the Heights, you got Anthony Ramos now In the Heights in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know who's good.
So later that summer, he appeared in another movie called War Games, which I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's classic cheesy 80s film where he was able to land his first leading role, and his performance in that movie ultimately put his acting career on the map. So a few years after that, now we're hitting 1986. He starred in arguably, I was born, people.
A star was born.
A star was born. Top Gun 1 came out, and a star was born. It was me. But yeah, he started arguably his most well-known role to date as Ferris Bueller in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which became a huge success and became the 10th highest.
Bueller. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah, it's an amazing freaking movie. It's just, and it's one of those I could rewatch all the time because it never gets old. It's just classic hijinks and coming of age. It's just funny shit. Like,
yep, very relatable.
Yeah, but it became the 10th highest grossing movie of the year. And at that point, he made a name for himself in Hollywood, and he quickly became a rising star in the industry just a year before the incident I'm going to go into.
Oh, so, it's that old?
Yeah, it's a very old incident, but it is not forgotten, and I feel it needs to be brought up again because what inspired me to do this story, like I've known about the story for a long time, a couple decades, but what's happening now is every time on social media, whenever I see Matthew Broderick post something or it's something of worth or whatever the case may be, there's always one or two people within that social media that always comment on this particular incident.
With this thing.
I don't even know if I should call it a troll because you'll see what happens with it. But there's a unsolved question. Like there's some unsolved actions, and we need answers at some point. We really do. But yeah. So to paint this picture, on August 5th, 1987. Broderick was driving a rented BMW 316 in Enniskillen, Northern Ireland, with his girlfriend at the time, who was Jennifer Grey. For those of you who don't know her by name, you know who Jennifer Grey was. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Yeah. Okay. Dirty Dancing, folks. Dirty Dancing.
I'm sitting here. If you could see it, if you watch the video of the light bulb turning on in my head, I was like, Jennifer Grey, baby.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So they had met on the set while filming Ferris Bueller Day Off. And didn't she play his sister? Am I going crazy? No. She played his sister in the film.
I don't know.
Because he had the obnoxious sister. She ended up going to jail, and she fell for Charlie Sheen. Yeah.
Yes, it was Jennifer Grey. Awesome.
So yeah, that went down. But yes, they started dating. They had met on the set while filming Ferris Bueller Day Off, and they began secretly dating shortly after. While driving, he accidentally crossed over into the wrong lane because remember, in Ireland, it's opposite
the other
lanes.
Side, right?
Yeah. So he accidentally crossed over into the wrong lane and crashed into an oncoming Volvo, killing 2 passengers. The passengers were Anna Gallagher and her mother, Margaret Doherty, just 9 days before the premiere of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Man, you can feel like you're at the top of the world, huh?
And
then something happens that just humbles you.
Broderick suffered several injuries himself, fracturing his leg, his ribs, gaining a concussion, collapsed lung.
Oh my God, this is horrible.
While Gray suffered from severe whiplash that forced her to have to get surgery to avoid potential paralysis. So this is the thing. This wasn't just like a minor wreck. It killed two people, folks, and it practically killed him and Jennifer Gray. Yeah.
Wow.
Keep in mind, I specifically said this happened 9 days before the premiere of this movie. 9 days before he became a household name. This has happened. When he was questioned by the authorities, Broderick claimed that he had no memory of the crash and why he ended up swerving into the wrong lane. He said that the first thing that he remembered was waking up in the hospital with a strange feeling going down his leg. He was eventually charged with causing death by dangerous driving and was originally facing up to 5 years in prison. However, he was surprisingly only convicted of a lesser charge for careless driving and was only fined £100, which was the equivalent back then of $175 our currency,
not even $200
for his crime. And he was able to return to the U.S. after only paying $4,000 in bail. So you basically rounded up, you paid close to $4,200 total.
Right.
$4,200 total for 2 lives that are irreplaceable.
Yeah, and not even like that money is going to help the family of...
Not at all.
That's just
not at all.
The government of Ireland taking that money.
It doesn't fucking help that family at all. And listen, I try not to be biased. I know maybe some of you guys are listening and sometimes you feel like our stories might be biased towards our opinions. But my thing is about this, 9 times out of 10, quote unquote, amnesia that happens within accidents and traumatic events. It's like when you look into that, that form of amnesia is only temporary. It's only fucking temporary. You'll get your memory back to some extent. You'll get it back. But for you to now tell me you have no recollection of even swerving into there, you don't have it. Jennifer Gray doesn't have it. No one fucking knows why you. It's not like you were by yourself. You had someone else in the car with you. No one fucking knows why that car swerved into the other side of the road. Were you high? Were you drunk? Were you guys fucking around? Like, there has to be some sort of answer towards that.
Yeah. Why doesn't Jennifer Gray know? Is she claiming amnesia too?
She doesn't talk about it.
What the fuck? I mean, I get.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? So it really is very hard. Do we know where they were coming from?
Well, I named the town that they were in. This was part of what their little vacation thing was going to be. They were just out there.
But if they're coming from a bar,
I see what you're saying. If they're coming from a bar, no
what
details. What
actions were they doing prior to that? Yeah, I mean,
but see, that's the catch. If it was today, this day and age, we would be able to track them better. But since this is in the 80s, I mean, cash was more king. That's in their benefit. There's no debit. There's nothing. Yeah, there was no cell phone tracking them. The family. It just angers me very much.
Oh, I see that.
Sorry, but the family of the victims was obviously they were understandably outraged by the verdict, and they called it a travesty of justice due to how easily Matthew Broderick got off the crime. Eventually,
now, do they have civil lawsuits in Ireland?
I
wonder. I see that's the thing that's hard when we do these stories that are overseas. We don't know what their law systems are like. The story we told last week with Nick Carter is a civil lawsuit for money. She's asking for reparation, and it's not criminal, so it doesn't matter. He couldn't be taken to court, right? But in this case, everything you're talking about is the criminal aspect of this.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there's any kind of civil litigation that they could take to gain. I guess not, because I'm assuming you would have told me about it by now.
Yeah, pretty much. I would have told you. But you know what? For those listening, if we happen to know any attorneys or lawyers listening, and you ever want to chime in on any of our stories that we've discussed we'd love to bring you back on as a guest where we could do recap certain things and just hear like your preliminary take on it. But
you can tell I'm in like a lawyery court mindset with my Napster thing. I'm all like, that's the first place my brain's going today. So,
but the family of the victims, understandably, they're fucking outraged. They said it was a travesty of justice, that verdict, due to how easily Broderick got off for the crime. Eventually, the brother / the son of the victims, Martin Doherty, he came out publicly to forgive Broderick after he made plans to meet with him and make amends in 2003. when Matthew Broderick appeared in a Honda commercial that aired during the 2012 Super Bowl. Martin Doherty shared with the public that the meeting he had been promised nearly a decade prior never even happened.
Never happened. Shut the fuck up.
And that Broderick wasn't the greatest choice to appear in the ad, given the incident. It's still unknown to this day whether he has met with Doherty to fulfill the promise that he once gave. You didn't give his family no money. You didn't fucking even go back to fucking meet them to apologize. And you did a Honda commercial, which I distinctly remember in 2012. And I was like, this man, vehicular manslaughter. Like, he killed two people and y'all used Matthew Broderick. Like, out of all the people you could have pulled, you pulled this motherfucker out there.
Honda came back afterwards. They were like, who hired him? You're fired.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, a lot of backlash.
Jesus. And wait, okay. So this happened in 86?
This happened in 87. Ferris Bueller was filmed in 86.
87 to 2003. What the fuck? That's such a long time. Why 2003 did it come back and say like, hey, I'll meet you? What the fuck? Why not the same year or the year after or 1993?
Because over those years, and then with the development of internet and other things, the question has always come up about this incident. And I guess he got to the point. I guess he got to the point where he was finally like, I will make amends. I will do this. I will do that. But he didn't fucking do it. He didn't pay them. And listen, I'm not talking about like outside settlements or anything like that. He did nothing for these people. He literally took that guy's family. They're dead.
Kill them with a car.
9 days later, he became a cultural phenomenon with Ferris Bueller Day Off. And he went on to lead a prominent life and career and did not look back towards that. It's fucking bullshit. And I hate that I have to go here too. But if you didn't guess when I gave the back history on Matthew Broderick, like, he comes from an established family. He comes from a privileged life.
An affluent life.
An affluent life. It's cool that you do, but like, I'm sure that had some influence on how he was able to fucking get out of that country in the manner that he did. Because they're not going to let you go just off the merit of, I'm a potential movie star. My film comes out in 9 days. There's no way. There's no way they would have let you go with that.
Wow. Yeah. What a fucking shame. What a shame. I can't imagine being the son and brother of these people. And then you just have this asshole who's famous and in your face in all these things for 2 decades.
And the thing is, if Martin Doherty had already forgave you before you guys even established the time to meet,
why couldn't you just do that?
So you could have just literally just met with him. And, you know, some people might be listening to this going, well, we don't know. Maybe Matthew Broderick in 2019 met with him. If he did, I'm pretty damn sure Martin Doherty would have said something.
He would have let everybody know.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just cowardice. That's what it is. He's, you know, he can't face his own actions and the repercussions of those actions. And you could feel bad. That's fine. But you have a responsibility from one human to another human. Mistakes happen. Listen, whether he was drunk or he was swatting a bug off of his face while he was doing it, he didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah, he didn't do it on purpose. And for sure, I understand that. But it's like the manner of you're not acknowledging and you just straight up.
That's where he's gone wrong, right?
Yeah,
like things occur in life that are horrible and tragic. But because you are bold-faced shying away from it, now you're really in the wrong. You've exacerbated the issue. By not facing it.
So that, and as you can see, so what happens now is, you know, it's rare that Matthew Broderick will tend to social media, but when he does, whether it's via his wife or together or whatever, whenever he's posting something specifically, there's always at least a couple people asking, when are you going to make, like, when are you going to face Martin Doherty? When are you going to apologize? Or when are you at least going to meet him or try to reach out and explain why you didn't meet him?
Oh, dude, it's so easy to remove this shadow from his life.
Yeah.
Just by the action of taking this man for a beer, you know, and crying about it. He didn't ask you for anything. You have made this so much worse.
Seriously. So it's really heartbreaking and gut-wrenching to know because, again, he returned to the U.S. His film came out 9 days later.
Here we go.
This guy's acting career continued without a hitch. Like, he was landing roles left and right, like within movie and in theater. He was just owning it. So, you know,
I think part of it too is like because the age of the internet didn't exist when this occurred, is that there was like a backlog of information. So he already had his stardom by the time it became available.
Exactly.
To the average individual in whatever country you were in. Yeah. Pure fucking luck.
By 1990, he got his first voice acting gig. He was adult Simba in The Lion King and the sequels. You know, he'll always be well known for Ferris Bueller.
Oh, yeah.
But he still had other films, and just like in 1996 he had one called The Infinity where he was the leading man, and again he has all these plays. Like he has didn't he just last year, or it was at the beginning of the pandemic, he did which one was it? It's a Neil Simon. It's Plaza Suite. He did Plaza Suite with his own wife, Sarah Jessica Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's still doing
other things in my head. Hold on. Inspector Gadget.
Yep. And during the 90s, he also made his return to Broadway. He won another Tony for the musical How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying.
Stepford Wives.
Yep.
The Bee Movie. Do you remember the Bee Movie? The Music Man.
Like we said, The Producers, which ended up winning 12 Tony Awards, and it was the most ever in history, and they ended up releasing the movie version. So it's one of those things. And he's just there, because sometimes I forget he exists, and then he just appears, you know. Nonchalant, nothing acknowledged.
He's like,
and
what
I'm
up?
like,
It's 2016. I'm in Manchester by the sea.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what's up, Matthew Broderick? Yeah.
But that's the catch. It's safe to say Broderick was clearly able to find success in the entertainment industry still, despite the tragic car crash incident that occurred early in his career. Although some people like me even wonder how he was able to essentially get away with the crime with minimal consequences, and if things would be different if the crash had happened in the US or if the crash had happened in an age of internet, among other things, you know?
100% would have been different if the internet existed. Yeah.
But, you know, while some people may have forgotten the incident because it happened so long ago, it's going to remain a stain on this man's legacy when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's my tale for Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, well, even if they did meet, they don't have to tell us, right?
Yeah, they don't owe
the public anything, but the court of public opinion still exists.
Right.
So if you want to have this not be something that literally follows you on every Instagram and Twitter post, then you need to share the story. You know, you are deemed responsible. So I think even if they did meet and it's none of our business, right? If he went and met this guy and say they did and he's cool with that, people still want to know, what the fuck did you do? Like, how did you get here? And there were serious ramifications. And people in general are just a nosy species.
Yeah.
And they want answers to questions that have left loose ends.
What do you think, though? Do you personally think he apologized?
I mean, I don't know him, right? I don't know his character. Right. I only know the character that we think that we all know of these celebrities, that whole weird feeling. Like we know these people. But, you know, the right thing to do would be to do that. And I don't know if I would come back if I were him and say, hey, I met with this person.
No, I'm not saying.
That makes it
I'm not
seem
saying
like self-serving.
He has to say that. No, definitely, he doesn't need to say that.
There's nothing to be gained by the other guy saying it. He's only further clearing Matthew Broderick, right?
But on the flip side, he had already stated, and he waited a full decade before he stated that Matthew Broderick never met.
Well, I mean, insult to injury is fucking doing a car commercial, for Christ's sake.
Oh my goodness.
He didn't sit in that car and think, this is probably a bad idea. Shouldn't have said yes to this. Way to go, Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
Just tell us what happened. Tell us what happened.
Tell us what happened.
When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all of the social platforms at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.